The situation for this lesson will be starting a new job, and there are a number of things you can use often when you're doing this. So the grammar point in this lesson will be causative verbs, and these more common words are ask, get, have, make, and let. So this grammar point is just like it sounds. Causative verbs are when one person or thing causes another person or thing to do something. Now, it's very common to use this when you need someone to do something for you, or if someone needs you to do something for them. Hence, this is why they're called causatives. So we're going to work with these 5 common causative words just to get us started, because these are very common and you'll hear these a lot. She asked me to stay late. She got me to take notes for her. She had me take some notes. She made me lead the meeting. She let me start at 10 a.m. So while all these words are quite similar, the nuances make them have sort of different meanings. So let's take a look. She asked me to stay late. In this case, I did have a choice. I could say no, but she was being polite and she asked me to stay late. She got me to take notes for her. This is something I maybe didn't want to do, but she was very convincing and somehow she convinced me and I took the notes for her, so she got me to take the notes. She had me take some notes. In this case, I didn't have a choice, but maybe because she's my boss, I was quite neutral because it's my job. So she had me take some notes, and I did. She made me lead the meeting. I did not want to, but I had no choice, and she forcefully caused me to lead the meeting. She let me start at 10 a.m. In this case, I wanted to. This one is more fun. So she let me start at 10 a.m. I wanted to start at 10 a.m. and now I am starting at 10 a.m. So before we start practicing, let's make sure we have the basic structure. So get and ask, these 2 particular words use the following structure. Subject, get or ask, object, to, and a do verb. I asked my coworker to cover my shift. I got my coworker to cover my shift. So let's compare these 2 sentences that are basically the same. I asked my coworker to cover my shift. This was a simple request. It was polite. My coworker could say no to this request. I got my coworker to cover my shift. Maybe my coworker didn't really want to cover my shift, but I persuaded her. It wasn't an easy agreement, but eventually I got her to cover my shift. So we're going to practice some examples of ask and get. So let's try these 3. I asked my neighbor to water my plants while I'm away. They got the salesman to lower the price. Jeff got me to agree to join the baseball team. So the nuances of these 3 sentences are as follows. I asked my neighbor to water my plants while I'm away was a polite request. My neighbor could say no because there's no reason why they couldn't. They got the salesman to lower the price. The salesman didn't want to lower the price, but they convinced him. Because it's his job to get the highest priced, but somehow they were very good talkers, very smooth talkers. Jeff got me to agree to join the baseball team. I didn't really want to, but Jeff was very convincing, and so I joined the baseball team, even though it wasn't my favorite sport. Moving on to have, make, and let, the basic structure is a bit different. Here, the subject, have, make, let, and the object are followed by a do verb, and there's no to. I had my brother drive me to the airport. I made my brother drive me to the airport. I let my brother drive me to the airport. So to expand on these sentences, let's look at the same sentence with very similar words. I had my brother drive me to the airport. He didn't mind, but he didn't have much of a choice, but it wasn't a big favor. I made my brother drive me to the airport. He didn't really want to, but I drove him to the airport last time, so he owes me a favor. I let my brother drive me to the airport. Maybe he's young and he just got his driver's license and he wanted to drive me to the airport. He needs the practice. Here are some examples of have, make, and let. So let's see what we can see. My friend made me watch a terrifying horror movie last night. I had my landlord fix my broken window. My friend let me drive his McLaren. Okay, some expanded sentences here. My friend made me watch a terrifying horror movie last night. I really didn't want to. I really don't like horror movies, but she was very forceful, and so she eventually made me. I had my landlord fix my broken window. He didn't mind. He was quite neutral, and it's his job. My friend let me drive his McLaren. It was a big favor and I really wanted to drive it, and so he was very nice and let me. So before we practice, let's do a quick review of structure. I'll ask my friend to help us move. I got my coworker to cover my shift. Ask and got both require to before the verb. My mom had my brother pick me up. My doctor made me eat less meat. I let my dog sleep on the bed. So had, made, and let just require the do verb. Pick, eat, sleep. So let's practice. Okay, so our first situation, Richard is playing baseball with his friends and he's not a fan of sports. So it's very surprising that he is playing baseball today. So we have lots of blanks, and I'd like you to choose a causative verb. Ask, get, have, make, and let. Remember to or no to, and the bolded letters here are the object of the sentence. So let's fill those in. Take a moment. Okay, let's see how we did. So the first one, Richard, you hate sports. How did they get you to come? Now remember, this was something that Richard did not want to do, but he was convinced by his friends. So this is get you to. They made me. In this case, he really didn't want to, but he had no choice. His friends gave him no choice. They made him come to the baseball game. Did they ask you to be the pitcher? He could have said no to this. It was possible. This was a big ask, and they knew they had already asked a lot. We'll probably just have you play outfield. This is neutral. There's not really a choice, but Richard is already there. Maybe if I play badly, they'll let me go home early. Now, this is something that he wants to do. He would love to go home early. So let's read this through. Richard, you hate sports. How did they get you to come? They made me. Did they ask you to be the pitcher? Yes, but there's no way. We'll probably just have you play outfield. Maybe if I play badly, they'll let me go home early. Okay, so now on to the topic of the day. We are talking about your first day at a new job, and this is going to discuss what your boss is asking you to do. So, same with the previous conversation. In the brackets, we have my boss and me. So my boss is the subject, me is the object. And had a choice is the type of nuance of the causative. So let's take a minute and we'll choose the correct causative for each one of these blanks. Okay, so this was a bit of a longer conversation and our topic of the day, talking about your first day at a new job. So let's practice all these answers. Yeah, it was busy, so my boss asked me to stay late. In this case, you had a choice in the matter. It was your first day, your boss asked you to be polite, and if you wouldn't mind, and you said yes. Although she made me introduce myself to everyone in the group, and I was pretty embarrassed. In this case, she gave you no choice, and you did not want to introduce yourself in front of everyone because that was not fun. So this is she made me. She had me join a few meetings. In this case, you had no choice, but it was your job and you were neutral about it. So she had you join some meetings. Of course, you joined some meetings. Some coworkers got me to join the baseball team. So maybe you needed convincing. You were convinced by your coworkers because you didn't really want to join the baseball team, but they convinced you. But she lets me start at 10 a.m. every day, so I'm happy. In this case, you really wanted this. So 10 a.m. is a very nice time to start work in the morning. And this is something you wanted, and so she lets you start. So this is a big conversation. Let's read this through just to practice how this would sound. Wow, it's 8 o'clock. Did you just come from work? Yeah, it was busy, so my boss asked me to stay late. But she's pretty cool. Although she made me introduce myself to everyone in the group and I was pretty embarrassed. Well, cheers. How was the rest of the day? It was okay. She had me join a few meetings and some coworkers got me to join the baseball team, but she lets me start at 10 a.m. every day, so I'm happy. Beautiful job on these causatives, and I hope you feel more comfortable with the nuance of these very similar words, and hopefully you can use them the next time you need someone to do something for you. Thanks very much, and see you in the next lesson.